All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining another Test Data Manager Community Webcast. Today we're going to be covering the latest release of CA-TDM, which is release 4.5. On the phone today, we have Deva Chatterjee. He is the Director of Products for TDM. He's going to be taking you through a short presentation as well as some demos on the new features of the product. And we will also be taking Q&A during this session. So if you have any questions as we're going through today's session, you can feel free to put those into the Q&A box. The Q&A box can be found in the right-hand panel of your WebEx screen. If you don't see it maximized, you can click up at the top right. There is a blue box with a question mark in it. Click that to maximize the Q&A box. Then you can type your questions in there. And then we'll get to your questions at the end of the session today. We will also possibly be opening it up for verbal questions at that time as well. So if you have anything you'd rather ask over the phone, you can save those for the end. I'm now going to turn the call over to Deva. Deva, you can take it away.
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, everybody. My name is Deva Chatterjee. I'm the Director of Products for Test Data Management. In the call with me, there is Jeff Hughes, who is also part of the product marketing team, and he will cover some of the content. As well as I'll have Miroslav Novak, who is going to help me out with one of the demos. So, the focus of today's call is actually to go over what we have done in the current release of Test Data Management 4.5 that came out about a week back. So you can actually download it, you can give it a go, and before you do that, maybe it's a good idea to check out what's new in 4.5. So clearly, you need better test data, and you need it quickly. So that's the reason test data management is very important. But there are certain, roadblocks or problems associated with test data management, and we strive to address those roadblocks in our releases. Now, the biggest challenges that you might see with test data management are mainly around finding test data. I mean, we have seen that about 50% of the average tester's time is spent waiting for test data, and when they don't find it, sometimes they actually create test data by hand, so which is like manual creation of data, which is very time-consuming. The other challenge, which is a significant challenge for a lot of our enterprise customers, because the GDPR regulation, it's going to be it is going to be rolled out towards the last week of May, and European enterprises as well as U.S. enterprises who are doing business in Europe will be impacted in some way or form based for GDPR. And GDPR sort of impacts the way we collect, use, and process personal data. So it definitely has a big impact on test data management, specifically when you are trying to make a copy of production data and create a test environment to run your test cases. You need to make sure that the sensitive information that is carried over from production are masked properly and it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. So definitely test data compliance is one of the biggest challenges with test data. Then, of course, improving test data itself. I would say oftentimes what happens is that the production data that the copy we get leads to testing of certain, happy paths. What about testing new areas? Your company is expanding to a new country. Maybe the test data distribution would be very different than what you have today. So how do you make up for those use cases where you don't have test coverage? So our sensitive data generation capabilities come handy in those particular areas. Followed by the other, I would say the elephant in the room is the ability to get access to test data. So the delivering of test data problem. Although it is seen as an operation operation-owned issue, but the effect of this, of not delivering test data in quick time, is basically suffered by the testers. So we have, we have our solution, our virtual test data management solution, VTDM, actually, is a solution geared towards solving the test data delivery problem. So with that said, I will, sort of change my focus into what CA test data management is. I'm assuming you have, most of you who have joined the call are already familiar with what CA test data management is. We are a complete solution with masking, subsetting, synthetic data, I said find and reserve, the ability to help testers find their data, and of course virtual test data management, which I covered in my last slide as well. We have a very high focus on compliance because we help you to locate PII data, generate heat maps, identify tables which are more, has more sensitive data over other tables, help you to tag those columns that have sensitive data, and mask those columns subsequently with our fast data masker. We also have a very we have a TDM portal that helps you to generate, manage, and deliver test data, very conveniently. And we are of course agile, and we let you have high quality test data to maximize coverage through our test data generation capabilities. So with that said, let me sort of change gears and talk about some of the changing landscape that is impacting test data today. Test data management has traditionally focused, we have focused on mainly mainframes and RDBMS solutions. But if you look at our customers, when we look at our customer base, we see that the data sources are now frequently we are encountering are beyond RDBMS and the mainframe and the traditional mainframe data source. We have been asked about Hadoop. We have been asked about NoSQL. We have been asked about cloud because data no longer resides only on-premises. It is the subsequent amount of application development in the cloud. So the location of the data is changing, and then there is a increasing shift within organizations to move from the traditional dev, test, QA model over to a more DevOps structure where you have development and operations all working together, and the boundaries of these development of these teams are now blurred. Of course, also more and more development teams are adopting Agile, so moving from a waterfall method. So, that is also impacting how test data is consumed. How can I integrate test data management with my continuous delivery pipeline? So these things are definitely impact the test data management landscape, along with some of the regulatory changes like GDPR that I spoke about a couple of slides back, and then new technologies like microservices, which is is gaining more and more popularity every day. I mean, I don't come across any organization who are not looking at building microservices-based application or containerizing their applications with Docker. So there is a lot of variety of forces that are impacting test data management. So we are also evolving our test data management strategy, and as we release our product in subsequent, in subsequent releases of our product, we will see how we look towards, addressing this changing TDM landscape. Stay tuned for what we are going to do in these spaces, in the new spaces. We are going to evolve as we see, as the TDM landscape changes or moves in a different direction. I just wanted to, pause here, and also before I jumping into what we have done in the latest release of TDM, I also wanted to sort of give you a sort of what we call a recapitulation of what we did last release. In TDM 4.4, we did some significant releases. We added some significant features around VTDM. We did turnkey integration. But one of the features that actually stood out and is getting very popular within our customer base is the PII, personally identifiable information data discovery and profiling. So this is a very simple yet very powerful workflow that we have added that you can use to identify your PII sensitive data very quickly across multiple data sources. Once the workflow runs, it creates a heat map, as you can see on the right side, that helps you to visualize where the PII data reside. And then you can flag the sensitive data to document where the hotspots are. And then finally, you can call the masking engine to actually mask the sensitive data and mitigate compliance challenges. So this is the first step towards addressing your GDPR compliance. So this came out last December. A lot of our customers have expressed interest in or the desire to use PII data discovery and profiling and to discover sensitive data for their GDPR compliance. So now, with that said, what have we done in the new release for Test Data Manager 4.5? We have added a capability to discover the data model, automatically discover data model, that allows relationship between tables to be discovered and across multiple data sources. And I'll sort of do a drill down into each of these features. We have enhanced PII data discovery. So it's just not what we had in 4.4. We have made a whole bunch of usability enhancements to PII data discovery, and that I think significantly improves the value or that users can easily get out of our PII discovery flow. And then finally, we have also made some productivity enhancements to find and reserve. We will try to cover all of these features in demos, but before I jump into that demo, let me sort of drill down into each of these features separately. So automated data model discovery, I mean, it is, a lot of the times when we talk to our customers and we say that, we would like to understand your data model, often the response is that, the guys who built this application no longer work here, or the team has moved on, we don't really have documentation, so we cannot really help you out, you'll have to, you'll have to do this yourself, you have to do the discovery. So it becomes a very painful process of of actually discovering the entity relationship within a particular database. So what automated data model discovery does, it helps you to quickly build data model with very limited understanding of the actual application. What we do, you actually sort of give us a target of databases or a collection of databases, which we call an environment, and we discover relationship between the tables, automatically. I mean, not just automatic. We don't just read the database metadata. We just not read the constraints and discover. We go steps beyond that, and we look at the column names. We inspect the data in those columns, and then we match those columns and build sort of derived relationships that are not part of the database metadata. And the third way that we let you define the relationship is basically the way of, by allowing you manually creating relationships on top of the data that we have discovered. So there are three ways. We automatically look at the database metadata, we inspect column names and inspect the data to match, create relationships, and then we let you define your own relationships that probably are not very apparent from the crawl of the data, for us to say. And then we provide a very rich visualization of these relationships, which helps you to see how the data, how the tables are, related to each other. So this is, this data model, if you think about it, is the fundamental foundation through many of our features. Eventually, once we have this data model, we have released this foundational feature in 4.5. In subsequent releases, we will add our data model discovery. We will connect it to the various features that we have, and they would all use this discovered data model as the starting point to provide you additional functionality on top of that. Because data model is the foundation for a lot of your applications, and basically you are trying to generate the test data for the for those applications that actually rest on the data model. So this is going to be a central theme for many of the features that come out in the next subsequent releases. The other feature that I said that we have done are usability enhancements in PII data discovery. We have provided the ability to specify a scan depth. In the earlier release, we just used the default and we just read the records, a random sample of few records, and we gave you the sort of marker whether this column is sensitive or not, or which columns in a table are sensitive. But now in 4.5, we actually have changed it and provided a scan depth. So you can choose to say, okay, I want to read every record in this table before you tell me that these columns are sensitive or not. Or you can just say, okay, just read 5% of the data, or just accept the default like we had before. One of the other features that we have done, we have provided the ability to add filters, which let you include or exclude tables from a scan list. Which we think about this. Let's say you have a schema that has 2,000 tables, and you only want to scan data on 50 of those tables. So you can create an include list and just say, okay, I would like to scan only this set of 50 tables. I don't want you to scan on, waste your time on all the others. Or you can provide an exclude list saying that, okay, I have these 2,000 tables. I want you to scan on all the tables, but I don't want you to scan on this 50 tables. So you could just give us an exclude list, and we won't scan those tables as part of PII data discovery. And also, we have improved the interaction, the heat map interaction that we had delivered in the prior release. So I would actually show you how you can zoom in and look at the table names and various features on filtering and so on. Lastly, one of the features that I mentioned at the beginning is the advanced find and reserve. This is a very critical feature in my opinion, because testers spend a lot of time just to find data that they want to test. So, and oftentimes enterprises, big enterprises, their applications are not just tied to one data source. It is tied to multiple different data sources, very disparate data sources. I spoke to a customer, they had an application that spans across mainframe, Oracle, and some other data source. So when you have to find data across multiple data sources, we have provided the ability to prefetch the data referenced by these, these tests, the data models from multiple sources and store it locally in our find and reserve data store, and wherefrom the tester can actually find the data locally instead of going across multiple data sources themselves. So it dramatically improves the search performance and definitely improves the tester's efficiency. We have also, what we have done, we have also provided auto-suggest drop-downs to help testers quickly complete their search criteria. So, it helps them to sort of not pick up a value from a list and not, make mistakes by doing spelling errors or case errors, something like that. So that is another feature. You can see on the screenshot on the right, like you could choose the name of a state. It's a drop-down provided for the testers. And then also you can view the status of data which matches your search criteria, but has been reserved by some other tester. Maybe if you see that one particular record is better for your testing and that has been reserved by another tester, you could actually, maybe talk to that other tester and say, okay, has he done with his testing? Can you get access to that data? So various different things can be, imagined in those cases. You can also use our test generation capabilities to duplicate a certain record and use that for your own testing purposes. So these are the three main features. I would now like Jeff to sort of talk briefly about this upcoming event that we have, what you can learn from this. Jeff, can you please, are you there?
Sure. Yes, I'm here. We'll take a little commercial break and just let everybody know that on the 24th of this month, we are partnering with DevOps.com and doing a session with them, again, April 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. If you head over to DevOps.com and then click on Webinars, you will see an option there to register. We hope you'll join us. We're going to be talking about data privacy, GDPR, compliance initiatives, and how they relate in terms of testing and test data. So it's an event that you won't want to miss, and we hope you'll join us for that. Thanks, Diva.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. So now it's time for demos. I have just spent about 25 minutes. Now let me spend about another 10-15 minutes, and before I hand it over to Mirek, who is going to cover one of the other demos. So here is the starting point. I would rather once we log into the system, this is an environment, and if I click on this action here, it is basically a collection of two databases. I have a sample DB and another database called Chinook DB. So these are two databases which are collected. I mean, just imagine these two databases, these two disparate databases creates your application environment. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to discover the data model of these applications. I have no idea what these applications look like, so I'll just select on this and I'll say discover this data model for these two databases. Now, I could set up exclusion rules saying that don't look into these schemas because they are not really related to these databases. So once I have done that, I will hit the scan button, and then what it does is submits a job that starts scanning the metadata. It takes, as you can see, it is, it looks through this through the data sources, and it finds that there are this is how the schemas look like, and you can see that there's also a sample DB, and which also has a large schema, and so we went through and found two databases, found the data model in those two databases. Now, these icons mean that there was a relationship that was discovered. So let me see what is it. So if I look at customer ID, I can see it is connected to multiple different columns in the two data sources. So I could actually make this only look at the relationships instead of going through all the tables. So it's very clearly I can see that it is related to the invoice table as well as the employee table. We could also look at another table, let's say the invoice table, and you can see how it is connected to the invoice ID key is connected to two different tables. I mean, it's just like that. Now, let me go to the sample database, and from there I can see the customer here is how they are connected to the different tables with different columns in the databases. So I can also have a different view, which this view is something that I really like because it lets me visualize how these tables are related to each other. Now, I could actually drill down into one of these data sources. This is the sample DB, and I think that, let's say, this is something that we did not discover. The customer of sample DB is related to the customer in the Chinook database. That's how, so we can click on edit relationships, and I can say customer on sample DB, and then I pick the Chinook DB and say customer ID is related to the customer table, and let's say to the customer ID field. And then I click done, and you will see now these two data models got connected to each other. They were not connected in the previous view, but now as we build the relationship, we were able to connect these two tables, and we could say that, okay, this is how relationships where these two tables are related to each other. We can also look at this this particular table and say details, and you can see how the customer is related to all the other tables in the two different databases. Now we can also say, okay, I want to, at this point you want to know how the supplier table is related to other tables. You can click on it and it just changes the view. So the driver table on the left side can be shifted around for you to get a better understanding of your entire data model. So to me, I mean, this is very interesting because it lets me find out the relationships very quickly. It also helps us to build the relationships, and also, from this, I can actually zoom and find out from a very high-level visualization how each of these tables are related to each other. And when you look at the relationships, you can see it's one primary key, foreign key, 3 column match, which is based on the column names, and also one user-defined relationship, the one that defined, added to it and created this relationship. So what can we do with this? I mean, with this environment that we created? We could feed this into our data profiling capability. So we could actually go into data profiling and say, instead of getting these tables, let's choose this environment here. And on the right side, you see all the classifier tags. The classifier tags are basically a set of, I would say, complex regular expressions that allow you to look into, use those expressions to look into sensitive data in the databases. So once we take that and we can just click next, it will provide me a screen to specify the scan depth. The depth of scan that I mentioned in the presentation, where you can actually take this slider and say, okay, it's 5% or 10% or 20% of the scan. I'll just stick to basic because I want this job to run quickly. And at this point, we'll just sample 10 rows, and we will click next, and we'll say scan all tables. I don't want to include or exclude any tables here. I'll just click next, and it will submit a job for my, for this profile scan. So this is running, as you can see, and it is now ready for review. So when I click on this, I see that there are bunch of tables which are very high, very high. There's a lot of sensitive data being discovered, and there are a few which are green, which have sort of no tags at all. But at this point, we want you or the user to go through all these tables and find out whether the tags that we discovered are actually correct, or you want to add more tags or not. So one thing we added, and this is something I really like, because this filtering capability helps us to identify, I would say helps us to find that needle in the head says tag. We could say, okay, show me all the tables where you found the email address field, and you can see these are the two tables automatically. Very quickly we can drill down into the tables where the employee ID is there. You could actually also look into each of the tables. In fact, we could zoom into one table and look at the details of each table as well. Instead of that, what I can do here, I will inspect one of these. I'll click on Investigate and go through these different tags. This is, functionality that has been there for since last release. You could actually change some of these tags. You could actually, add tags. You can remove them. And once you are happy with these tags, you can just confirm and review all the tables that are there. I'm just not looking through the tags. I'm just assuming that they are all correct. And, what will happen once I, now I'm on the green tables because we did not find any tags on these tables. And once we go through the entire list, let's say we have reviewed this, and so it lets me download a report that I have created based on my investigation. So I have now this report that I can share with my controller and have them go through all the details of the columns that were tagged for sensitive data, and we can say, okay, this is where we have found all the sensitive data. These are the columns that we are going to mask, and this is before we actually copy production data over to a test system. So now the controller can sign off, and you have, the action, you have the approval to start doing your test data management operations. So with that, I think my demo is done. I will stop sharing. Mirek, you are there, so let me pass control over to you, and then you can show the find and reserve demonstration to our audience.
Thank you, Deba. I want to make sure that you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Very good. So thank you. My name is Miroslav Novák. I'm a product owner of CTS Data Manager, and I'm very happy to show you a demonstration of find and reserve functionality. I will focus in my demonstration on the new features introduced in 4.5 release. So here in my project, I'm in self-service catalog, and I can see that there is a test data model which allows me as a tester to search for the data which I need. This particular test data model aggregates data about customers and orders, and for several environments which have been defined, I can search for my data which I need for my test cases. I can specify what are my test requirements to find the right data in the right environment, and then I can perform my test. I can reserve the data, perform my test, and when I'm done, I can release the data. So this is my test model which I'm going to use. If I just hit find without specifying any search criteria, I can review which data is covered by the model. And actually here, what is happening on the back end, this is new feature in 4.5 release. The data is prefetched and stored in fine reserve data store, so that we are able to efficiently search through all the data and evaluate all the search criteria conditions. So let me refine my search. I can go to country and I can pick a specific country. So let me choose United States. You can see that as I type, list of the values is filtered, and I can pick from this list. So this is another functionality which was introduced in 4.5 release. I can continue and I can go to city field, and I can restrict which cities within the United States I would like to consider in my search results. So let's add a couple of cities. And let's repeat the search. So now I can see that I have narrowed down the list of my reserve of the search results, and I have customer data which match my requirement of being in USA and these specific cities. So I can take a record and reserve it. So we can pick, for example, San Francisco and add it to a reservation shopping cart, and I will immediately finish my reservation. So now my reservation was done. I can go to the reservation and do my testing. But let me demonstrate another feature which was introduced in 4.5 release. There is the ability to include already reserved data in the search results. This option can be controlled by test data engineers, and they can decide to which testers they will expose this functionality or not. So it's not a feature which is available for all the models, all the testers, or none of them. It's a feature which you can on a low granularity control. So test data engineers can decide that for a certain group of testers, for a specific test data model, it's safe to expose this advanced functionality to users, and then they will have this extra option available in the search form. And hitting find, not only data which is available for testing and hasn't been reserved yet is included in the result, but also items which have been already reserved. Here I can see that a couple of items have been already reserved. Of course, that I cannot reserve them. They are booked. Actually, these items are booked by myself. And this information can help me to have a conversation with the guys who have reserved the data and get the data which I need for my testing. In this case, it's me, so I don't need to have a conversation. It might serve as a reminder that actually I have reserved already some data matching these requirements. But in reality, I can quickly find that actually there is data matching my requirements. It's reserved by my colleagues, so I can ask them whether they will finish testing in some short term, and I will be able to reuse their data, or whether I need to ask the data engineer, for example, to clone these records for me. So from tester perspective, these are new features which are available there. So faster search thanks to query engine which uses local store, auto suggest, and the ability to pick even multiple values from the suggest list to refine query criteria, and the ability to include already reserved data in the search results. We are close to a short demonstration which I wanted to share. Now let me go to definition of this model to show you that all these features can be controlled in a very simple way. So this is the sample model which I used as a tester to search for the data. And here are the major controls which allows me to expose or hide the advanced functionality. So I will start from the right. So this simple toggle controls data prefetch. I can decide that for a specific model, this optimization is not required, and I'm fine with the query engine going directly to original data sources, which might be distant, or like there might be the network can introduce some delays, so I will have to wait for the search results, or I can activate data prefetch, and on the background from all the included data sources, data is prefetched and queries will be optimized. The ability to include already reserved data in search results is controlled by another toggle, this one. And if we look inside the model, and we will, and we will go to the definition of data elements which are in my data model, we can get information about display type of particular fields, and we can actually change it. So if I'm happy with auto-suggest drop-down functionality, I can leave this checkbox on. If I would like to change it, and I would like to use like searches, I can simply disable the checkbox and save my changes. So this concludes my demonstration. Back to you, Deba.
Thank you, Mirek. Let me grab the presenter role, and Mirek, if you can, okay, let me just share that way I can. Mirek, can you please pass me the presenter role back? Okay. Thank you.
You should have it now. Oh, wait, no, it went to Jeff. Hold on. All right, you should have it now.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. So this where we were here. Let me go back to my slide, and this is my concluding slide. So why Test Data Manager? We help you, based on Forrester research and different studies performed by these analyst firms, we help you reduce 90% of time to get to your test data. It results in 30% increase in resource productivity and about 25% reduction in IT costs. There is a wide range of customers that who use Test Data Manager in different industry verticals, and I'm sure you must have seen or come across Test Data Manager in your in many of such customers. And there are also a lot of customer references that you can find in our website. So with that said, I will at this point maybe we can go through some of the Q&A questions that we have received. And I would also like to thank Melanie, Jeff, and Mirek for helping me, go through this call, go through this presentation. Melanie, would you be able to read out the questions that we have?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Deba. So just a reminder, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. You can enter them into the Q&A box on the right-hand panel of your WebEx screen. We do have a few that are in there in the meantime. I'm not sure if we went over this. The first question is from Mahesh. What's the upgrade path from 4.0 to 4.5?
Okay, that's a good question. We are providing support for upgrade from 4.2, 4.3 to 4.5. So if you have an earlier release of test data management, you have to manage it. You have to first go to 4.2 or maybe go to 4.3 and then upgrade to 4.5.
Thanks. Okay, so is DD and profiling, does DD and profiling work for only relational database or project-oriented database as well?
Oh, well, I think relation right now, the data model discovery and the profiling is geared towards RDBMSs like Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, MySQL, MariaDB, and those type of databases. And I think you meant to say object-oriented databases. We don't have support for any object-oriented databases, but if there is a need, you can reach out to me and we can see how we can work with those type of databases. Maybe something like a Versant, which is an object-oriented database. We'll have to see. Any other question, Melanie?
Yes. There's another one from Peter. Can we multiple select several tables from the heat map to confirm? And also, when dealing with data sources with lots of tables, you need a trained monkey to confirm all the tables.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Well, no, there is a reason why, and there is a temptation to do that. In fact, I was one of the persons who have suggested doing that, but then later I realized that security is not, we shouldn't do, there is the temptation of multi-select tables and just say, oh, these are non-PII tables. But on the first pass of your review, we want the user to go through all tables because it is a matter of security, and we do not want to go through the complete this review process in haste. So at least one pass needs to be done, to be done in table by table. That would ensure that actually a human has gone through all the tables and made sure that no sensitive column has been missed. So yes, but let's say after you have marked a whole set of tables as non-PII, maybe in the future we can skip those tables, saying that do not scan tables that are already marked as non-PII. So that might be an enhancement that would allow us to skip through the tables that have already been reviewed by users and marked as non-PII tables. But it's a good, valid suggestion. And just to make sure, we have already, done some thinking around it, and we have come up with the solution where at least one pass needs to be done through the entire tables by a human to make sure that no sensitive data column is missed.
Okay.
Melanie, are there any other questions?
Yeah, we do have a few more in. Another question is from Vinay. Can we do subset and mask at the same time?
Subset and mask at the same time. You need to first subset, then mask. Maybe we can make that as a single flow, but not at the same time on the same data set.
Just one second.
Any other questions?
Yeah, we do have a few more.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. I have a requirement to connect RAC server database via IPs from the CA TDM portal. I can see this option in CA Data Maker and Subset Tool, but not in the CA TDM portal.
Okay, so I have a requirement to connect to a RAC server database from CA. Okay, so this must be what you are suggesting is that you want to connect to a RAC database using IPs, and you have the option in Data Maker and Subset Tool. But this is something probably we need to add as a enhancement to portal. But I would like to understand the requirement better, because usually when it comes to a RAC database, there is a scan name which actually helps you to resolve multiple, it basically works as a load balancer to get your request to a specific or least loaded node. So the scan listener name is very useful for you to actually get to a certain, to the least loaded node. So I think better to use the scan name. You could also create a host name entry on your local host with the IP address with a name, and that might actually help you resolve. But again, this might be an enhancement request that we need to look at and I'll find out why we don't have, the support for IP addresses in portal. There must be a reason, but I'll find that out. Okay, Melanie, any other questions? Did I lose you guys? Hello?
I'm still here.
Maybe Melanie is having connection issues, or she may be talking on mute.
Hi, sorry, I was talking on mute.
Yeah, no problem. Vinay asked whether he can have my email address. Vinay, my email address, you can reach out to me at my first name dot last name at ca.com. It is devaditya.chatterjee@ca.com. You could reach out to to any of your contacts in CA, and they will forward you to me. But again, my email address is devaditya.chatterjee@ca.com. I'll just let us discuss the RAC database question. I mean, Oracle is my favorite subject anyway. Okay, I don't see any other questions, Melanie, at this point. Let me, sort of summarize what we had done today. We had gone through all the new features of CA TDM in 4.5. We did a demonstration of data model discovery. We did a demonstration of PII discovery, and then we had Mirek go over the find and reserve demonstration, where he demonstrated how to find and reserve data, and then some of the administrative options. So with that said, I would thank everybody for joining the call, and we look forward to you two using this product. And feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you, Deba, and thank you, Mirek, as well, for the presentation. And thank you, everyone, so much for joining. I put a poll out. If you could let us know what you thought of today's presentation. We use your feedback in planning out future sessions, so it's helpful to know what you thought of the session today. We'll be posting a recording of this session, as well as the PDF version of the presentation that was given today and the Q&A transcript. And we'll be posting that to the TDM community later today, so keep an eye out for that. We also are going to have some more upcoming events in the upcoming months, so keep an eye on the TDM community for any of those events that are posted there. Other than that, just thank you, everyone, so much for joining, and I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you out in the community. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.